Hey guys, we worked on the S10 Blazer for several hours, kind of late last night. Worked on it till almost midnight. For some reason, we could not find an angle that would allow the engine and transmission with the truck oil pan to clear the front crossmember. I find that very odd because the engine with the bell housing on went in fairly easily. It wasn't a huge nightmare. It pretty much get it angled right, it goes right in. But for some reason, the very top of the T-5 transmission just gets pinched. I mean, you can almost see the scratches on the top of the transmission where we were trying to get that thing to clear, because basically what we were running into was, it couldn't have been more than a half of an inch. Like, I literally am to the point where I'm tempted to take a sledgehammer to the tunnel in the on the firewall and just bang that thing in another half an inch, because it was just altogether frustrating as can be to sit there and try to get that thing to clear the cross member, and it absolutely refused to go in. You know what I mean? Like, because it was so counterintuitive to have a failure like that on something that we felt was a simple test fit, we just didn't want to give up. We kept raising the vehicle, lowering the vehicle, changing the angle of the engine on the hoist. The only alternative we have now is we were going to try to add like another 6 inches, raise the front of the Blazer another 6 inches, and see if we could just get a little bit more angle and try to get that stupid oil pan to clear. But basically what it's doing is it's pinching the top of that T5 to the entry of the tunnel, and then not allowing the very, very, very front part of the sump on the truck oil pan to clear the cross member. Because it would be so hard for me with one hand to get underneath there and try to stab this transmission by myself, I really wanted to modify this or change whatever needs to be changed except the oil pan, so that I can put this combo in with the engine and transmission as one unit. But it's trial and error trying to get this thing put in. But I wanted you guys to see the if you can see the mounts. See the mounts on the engine there. Basically what you're looking at is that Lsx Adapter Plate, which I've seen several people post videos on here recently. That now there's several different suppliers on eBay offering these type of plates, and they're all generally around $28 to $30 free shipping. I suggest you guys get some while they're available. They work perfect. There's no issues with the actual plate bolting on, other than the plate sticks out and interferes with your lower AC mount bracket. So on the very front of that plate on the passenger side, you can't put the AC plate back on. Now, you might be able to do some cutting and grinding on your AC plate and maybe make that work, but I'm just wanting everybody to know ahead of time that when you put that plate on there, it really interferes with mounting that AC bracket. But I wanted you guys to see, I'm trying not to be too herky-jerky with this camera, but I wanted you guys to take a look at the what I'm calling the frame stands. When you look at this 85 S10 Blazer, it has like a tower, like a, I don't know what, I just keep referring to it as a stand, but it basically has an inch or inch and a quarter stand that is connected to the front cross member. Then I have my Transdapt V8 adapter plate, so that I can run a regular V8 clamshell and rubber frame mount. Side note, I noticed that my little low powered small block Chevy has started, it tore the factory frame pad, that rubber in the frame pad, so I'm going to have to buy a new set of those, which is cheap. But I'm totally shocked that that little, what I would consider 290 to 300 horsepower engine with a baby shot of nitrous could tear the stupid engine mounts, but it is what it is. But we got that custom transmission crossmember pulled out, got the 2.5-inch dual exhaust out of the way, and absolutely could not get the stupid engine and transmission to go in. So I made a video yesterday that I really wanted to post that had a lot of good information in it, and then realized that it was basically worthless because my dog was standing under my feet the entire time that I was filming, panting. So thank God I did like a review. I always watch the videos before I post them up. All you could hear was that crazy dog panting. The whole video was just my stupid little mutt dog Duke sitting there panting. So had to delete it. Thought I'd come out here and make another video now that we got everything pulled out. I did have a lot of several trips to the various hardware stores in Raymore as I hunted down the 10mm by 1.50 in the various millimeter lengths to bolt that old 63 to 66 cast iron bell housing to the back of this block. I do not have the flywheel clutch or pressure plate installed at this time. We just threw the bell housing and the transmission on there so we could do some test fitting, try to verify where I did all my measurements before I cut my hole in my transmission tunnel on the inside. Hopefully that's all going to match up right, because I've measured it probably 7 times. A friend of mine, Shane, he measured it a couple of times last night, and he feels pretty confident in the location. So hopefully I did that right. But I had a little bit of trouble. I have a little video showing my initial work in installing my full rollerized pilot bushing that goes in the end of the crankshaft. That's a hard procedure to do without the proper installation tool, because when you have one good hand and one challenged hand to try to hold a socket, because I was using 1/2-inch sockets, 1/2-inch drive socket and extensions with a small sledgehammer to try to tap that pilot bushing in there. That was challenging. That definitely required a couple of breaks because it was frustrating, but I do have it installed. I left 200 thousandths of the pilot bushing sticking out of the crankshaft, and at some point I'm going to lift this assembly up and support the back of the transmission, because I don't want this crazy thing to fall on my head while I'm looking at it. But I wanted to make sure, if I don't need that thing sticking out 200 thousandths, as documented in the other video on YouTube about running old school 4-speed with an LS engine, I'll go ahead and drive it up flush like you would on normal application. One point of reference, the T-5 transmissions have a much longer snout on their input shaft. That little pilot snout that's on the end of the input shaft is quite a bit longer on the T5 than it is on the old school 4-speeds. So I'm fairly confident that I'll end up just go ahead and driving that roller pilot bearing into the end of the crankshaft until it's flush. But I want to get a visual representation of how that is engaging before I make that decision. Being that pilot bearing is in there more than 75% of the, I guess it'd be the thickness, I don't foresee having any problems with support or bearing failure if I leave 200 thousandths of it sticking out of the crank. But I do want to check every single thing of that nature to make sure that it's going to work properly. So Anyway, a friend of mine, Richard, he wants to come by because he would like to have a chance to stab this in with the motor and transmission connected together and make sure that we weren't just being retarded. So hopefully we'll be able to get that done maybe tomorrow. Apparently everybody was busy today. So I appreciate you guys watching these videos, and I'll try to get them up.